কৃষি নির্ভর বাংলাদেশের উন্নয়নে যেসব আন্তর্জাতিক সংস্থা কাজ করছে তাদের মধ্যে অন্যতম জাতিসংঘের ইফাদ। সংস্থাটির বাংলাদেশের দারিদ্র্য দূরীকরণেও ভূমিকা রেখে চলেছে। এছাড়া দেশের কৃষকদের দক্ষতা উন্নয়নে ইফাদের কার্যক্রম নিয়ে কথা বলবো আরটিভির নিয়মিত অনুষ্ঠান ফোর্থরাইটে। আপনাদের সঙ্গে আছে আমি সৈয়দ আশিক রহমান। আমাদের আজকের অতিথি বাংলাদেশে ইন্টারন্যাশনাল ফান্ড ফর এগ্রিকালচার ডেভেলপমেন্টের কান্ট্রি ডিরেক্টর মিস্টার আর্নোড Hameleers. Very welcome, Mr. Arnoud, at RTV studio.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me here, and I'm ready for a nice interview.
We are also very honored that you find time to be here. Well, how long have you been in Bangladesh, and how do you find it here?
I only recently arrived to Bangladesh in November last year with my family, and up till now we're enjoying being here, especially the work is completely different from my experiences in Latin America, and I'm really enjoying working with this government and developing new ideas, developing new projects. So yes,
That's great. So you enjoying it?
Yeah, I'm enjoying it. Yeah, I'm really enjoying it.
Before Bangladesh, you served in Latin America, right?
Yeah. I was in Honduras, Guatemala, and also in Bolivia.
In Bolivia also.
Yeah.
So what is your experience over there?
The first big difference is that here there's loads of people, and there with Bolivia you have 10 million people living.
Only 10 million.
And the country is 6 times bigger as Bangladesh.
Right.
And the same you could say for Honduras, where there's much less people, while here in Bangladesh, at least, and that's the interesting thing, here you potentially have an internal market.
Right.
While in these countries that's very difficult when your population is so small.
Mr. Arnoud, we see that you have an excellent career profile. How do you get into your career?
Well, I've got a very different history as normally people who work in banks. I originally worked in Scotland as a specialist in dairy cows.
Scotland.
Yeah, and there I was a researcher, and I did special diets so cows produce soft butter.
Wonderful.
But now and then slowly I got into development aid.
Right.
I first started in Bolivia working on developing curriculums in the universities.
Well,
Then I did also some rural development work, and that's how I got into IFAD. IFAD then took me also to Honduras, and then I had 2 countries at the same time. And then I came to Bangladesh, was my next step.
well,
And in Bangladesh, for IFAD is a very important partner. We've got the biggest
Undoubtedly.
portfolio here in Bangladesh.
undoubtedly, IFAD is very important. So, what is the vision of IFAD, and how do you see this implemented in the Bangladesh context?
What is IFAD? IFAD is a development bank which gives loans, cheap loans to countries like Bangladesh,
Right.
but tries to push them to reach the most poor or the people who has at least access to development opportunities.
Right.
So we work very much together with government. It's not that we decide what we are going to do here. We develop together a strategy, and the new strategy for Bangladesh was approved last week. And that's focused on two areas. One is making more climate resistant agricultural production system, and the second is connecting small farmers to market. Because we see as a low middle income country, Bangladesh is now generating a middle class, and this middle class will want other products. We have to congratulate Bangladesh that they are self-sufficient in rice.
Well,
But now also the market wants a diversity of products, which also helps in the context of climate change. Yeah.
well, Mr. Arnoud, how do the IFAD supported investments align with the national priorities, and which are the sectors with the highest investment interest?
We go for rural development, so agriculture is an area you can't miss, but we also would like to focus a little bit more on developing rural enterprises.
Well,
So there is some more transformation of products, and not only the raw product which go to the market. So that's an area which we want to develop, so a bit more processing capacity. But yes, it's all about the rural areas and trying to get economies of scale going in these areas.
Mr. Arnoud Hameleers, IFAD has a long-standing partnership with the government of Bangladesh. Please tell us about the nature of the partnership and your vision for this collaboration in the future.
No, I think Bangladesh is a very interesting partner for IFAD, and we are here already, I think, 74. We started working with the government of Bangladesh.
Well,
one of the big advantages you have in Bangladesh is that the institutions, the politics change, but the institutions don't change that much, what you see in Latin America. So you can really build on a long-term relationship in trying to work together. And that's the basis of our cooperation, is working together, designing together. Today, for example, I was with LGED, and we're now together thinking about what would be the next phase of a new project.
Well, Mr. Arnoud, what is the challenges?
I think, especially in the agricultural sector, is Bangladesh had done an excellent job in being self-sufficient in rice.
Well,
but it's now changing the chip and also looking at other value change, like other products,
right,
where there is demand for. And so, for example, for me, it's very strange that I can buy here cartoned juice of mango,
right,
which is not from this country, while the best mangoes are here.
Right, so potentiality here.
We should process here and respond to this market, and that's why one of our objectives is connecting these small farmers with these markets,
right,
in a more efficient way.
Right. Why this is not happening in Bangladesh? What is your finding?
I think it's this change of chip. They're very much focused on rice.
Now it is time to change the chips.
That's one thing, but I think also the banks and the financial sector is a bit afraid of the sector. Because they're used to very relatively secure investment, and you have an agricultural sector where you have another factor, which is climate, and especially now climate change, so that generates more risks. So I think also together with government we have to look at ways to take that risk factor for the financial sector out and see if we can then stimulate them to invest. Because, I mean, there's very capable persons in Bangladesh, well-educated people. I think we need to create more confidence between partners as well. I think the government, the Bangladeshi government, especially in the agricultural sector, needs to get more confidence also in working with the private sector. And don't be afraid of the private sector. I think that's another factor which we need to work on.
What is the role of IFAD here?
The role of IFAD from one side is financing these kind of ideas, but then also is to come with new ideas and to push, to give the Bangladeshi government the confidence to also invest in not a traditional, but also in some newer things. And we can bring in experiences from other countries, because we work in 80 countries all over the world, where we have done a grand variety of experiences, and they can be available for Bangladesh. And we're starting to do that. For example, 2 years ago, we also took a group to Vietnam in the crab sector, and they are now applying that here.
In your view, what are the causes of poverty? How is IFAD working with other UN agencies and IFIs in general?
Now, first, what's the root cause? I think the root cause of poverty in Bangladesh is it's a very big population in a small country. So depending on land for your future is difficult, because we all have a very small area if you divide the country up. But I think, I mean, the fact that Bangladesh already is a low middle income country shows that is very fast disappearing. In that sense, I think Bangladesh is an example for the world in terms of economic growth. But I think we need to work also together with the other UN agencies much more on get equal growth and inclusive growth. And I think the government is very open to this.
Right.
That's very interesting. So it's now looking in which instruments to use to go forward.
Right. Bangladesh is currently the country portfolio with the largest IFAD portfolio. What makes Bangladesh so attractive for investment?
I think it's the relation with government and the solidness in which they also implement projects. We have very little problems with the implementation of the projects here in the country. Most of them are advancing very well. So I think that makes Bangladesh a very interesting partner. But I think it's also impacts. I think also government and the public sector is committed to make a difference, and that you don't see that in all countries in the world.
Do you have any partnership with the private sectors?
We're starting that. I think that's the big thing which was missing. But we're now working with some dairy industry, with some other grains.
You started?
Yeah, we started working, and we're trying to get them involved with our programs. I think in the future there will be a few programs where we even more focus on that.
That's great. Then how do you select these private organizations? Do you have any process? Or?
No, I think as long as these organizations don't have any serious social problems internally, for example, that they abuse small farmers or something like that, or that there are serious problems in terms of environmental impacts, then almost all companies we can work with. But yes, we need to have good agreements and a good balance, and we need to agree together with the public or the government of Bangladesh, who will be this partner.
As far as we know, currently IFAD has 8 ongoing projects in the country and more in the design stage.
In the pipeline, yeah.
What are your future plans for the country program?
Well, the country program, as I said before, in our newest strategic plan, we'll focus on climate change and making more resilient agriculture, and the other one is connecting to farmers to the market. And that where will be our focus areas. What we have in the pipeline at the moment is a big project together with the Asian Development Bank, where we will focus on making more resilient infrastructure in the rural areas, but also, and that is the add-on which IFAD gives to that project, is value chain development and some initial processing of products. Another project where I was with LGED this morning, where we're looking at a financing an intermediate phase, and then hopefully go for a big project where we mobilize also the global climate funds, because I think Bangladesh could make better use of these opportunities.
That's great. Well, Mr. Arnoud, we'll talk on some priorities after a short break.
Okay, thank you.
দর্শক দেখছেন RTV নিয়মিত আলোচনা অনুষ্ঠান ফোর্থরাইট। এই পর্যায়ে নিচ্ছি বিরতি, ফিরছি একটু পরেই। সে পর্যন্ত আমাদের সাথেই থাকুন। দর্শক, আবার আমন্ত্রণ ফোর্থরাইট অনুষ্ঠানে। আজকে কথা বলছিলাম বাংলাদেশি ইফাদের কান্ট্রি ডিরেক্টর মিস্টার আর্নোড হেমলিয়ার্সের সঙ্গে। Welcome again, Mr. Arnoud, at RTV studio. What type of technical facilities are providing for our farmers to enhance their capacity?
We do a variety of things, and the most interesting thing, actually, I visited last weekend, and I went to the field, and we decided already in April that we need less farmer field school, but we need more farmer business schools.
Well,
and so together with one of our partners, the Ministry of Agriculture, we implement a project called SACP, and there they were actually training trainers for the farmer business schools, and it was so interesting to see, because sometimes, yes, and that's a worldwide problem, that farmers produced like their fathers have produced, but you need to adjust yourself to the market, to what the market wants, and etc. And they were training actually their trainers to run these farmer business schools, and that was very interesting. I think also we do work on training especially young people in the countryside in car mechanics, cell phone mechanics, and prepare them for providing services in the countryside, because we shouldn't see the countryside as only an area where you produce agricultural products. There's also a whole range of other businesses going around which support this production, and especially if you, for example, want to talk about mechanization, we need to have people in the countryside which can repair tractors, equipment, etc.
Mr. Arnoud, what do you think are priorities for the transition to lower middle income country Bangladesh is currently undergoing?
I think it's an important step, and it's an important focus also for this government to move to this middle income status. We have to make sure that it's inclusive. And that's, I've seen it in Latin America. You see countries graduating to middle income countries, but then they still leave 30% of the population behind.
Well,
so I think that should be the main focus, is make it inclusive, that really this middle income status is an inclusive society.
Mr. Arnoud, as you mentioned, you have been in Bangladesh for nearly a year. What are your impressions when visiting the rural sites and interacting with the communities over there?
Yeah, I've done a lot of field visits now, and I'm always impressed going to the countryside. First of all, you see how many people are there.
Well,
I'm used to other countries where there's not so many people in the countryside, and people are really committed to this countryside, to the agriculture. What I feel a little bit in Bangladesh, they are not as desperate to leave. They can see their future, and especially if you talk with young people. I think if we give them opportunities, they will stay there and they see a future. Last weekend I met somebody who had been working abroad, had a bit of savings, came back because of COVID, and now has a brilliant production, and he's never thinking about going anywhere else anymore because he can live very comfortable with what he's producing in the rural area. So I think there is enormous potential. But yes, we need to start thinking about mechanization, innovation, high value crops, and hopefully at some point also export from this countryside to other countries.
Mr. Arnoud, reflecting on the development of Bangladesh and IFAD's experience as a long-time financier, where do you see the biggest changes and what are the areas that need additional investments going forward?
Bangladesh is in a very, from one side, is developing very well, but from the other side, in a very critical situation, because all the effects of climate change and its impact from India will pass through Bangladesh.
Well,
to get to the sea. At the same time, the sea sometimes comes back in.
Right.
So that generates a very complicated situation, and that's the same as in my country. So we need to really think in how we're going to live with this, because I don't think we can build enormous dikes and protect, but we need to find a way how to live. And I mean, sometimes it's very impressive, for example, to see where we had the floods in this country where 20 million people were affected.
Right.
And only 12 people died. That's, I mean, you see what's happening in Pakistan, something similar, and they have thousands of people who died because they were not ready. In Bangladesh, they have also, in that sense, they're very resilient.
Right.
And so I think that's a very big strength which you have to build upon. People are connecting, helping each other. So I think, but yes, as I just want to repeat, we need to make sure that this is inclusive development, where everybody has access at medical services, at schooling, and economic opportunities.
That's great. Very good findings. Thank you. We are almost end of this program. Any final thought you want to share with our viewers?
I think, you know, Bangladeshis should be more proud of their country. I think, you know, I've seen very beautiful innovations which could be used in many other countries. They should feel more proud about the strengths they have in terms of agriculture production, but also about culture. And even, I think, something we need to work on, I personally would like to work on, is a bit more developing the gastronomy, more proud of the products and your cooking methods, and see that as a promotional tool for Bangladeshi products in export markets in the future. Because I think, because there's enough people here, you can do very intensive production and send it to other countries.
Right.
And I think that's what we should go for.
Thank you very much for being with us and sharing your thoughts.
Thank you.
দর্শক, দীর্ঘ 4 দশকেরও বেশি সময় ধরে বাংলাদেশের কার্যক্রম অব্যাহত রেখেছে জাতিসংঘের এই প্রতিষ্ঠান ইফাদ। বিশেষ করে কৃষি উন্নয়ন এবং কৃষকের উন্নয়নে ইফাদের যে পদক্ষেপ তা সত্যি প্রশংসনীয়। সময় যত যাচ্ছে এর ভূমিকা ততই গুরুত্বপূর্ণ হয়ে উঠেছে এদেশের অর্থনীতিতে। তাছাড়া কৃষিকাজে কৃষি অর্থনীতির উন্নয়নে সংস্থাটির বর্তমান ভূমিকা ভবিষ্যতে অব্যাহত থাকুক সেই প্রত্যাশা শেষ করছি আজকের ফোর্থরাইট। এতক্ষণ আমাদের সঙ্গে থাকার জন্য ধন্যবাদ সবাই।